In-camera editing is where something is filmed in the order of the narrative, and this takes a lot of planning to get everything in the precise order. This technique has become irrelevant due to digital filming. This was a cost-effective method of filming, which meant it could increase film usage. Early movies were filmed on analog cameras, which recorded the footage onto film. The film would be collated together and made into a film reel, which would then be projected in the cinema. Although some modern films, such as the Grand Budapest Hotel, are filmed on analog cameras, but most modern films are filmed digitally.
Edwin S. Porter's 1903 film The Great Train Robbery was one of the first films to use camera techniques such as camera movement and location shooting. Producing a pan shot in the early 1900s would have been rather difficult considering the equipment was usually fixed. The camera operator would crank the handle of the camera to film a scene. They would have to do this at just the right speed to capture the footage in real time. This meant moving the camera while filming was very difficult. Also, filming on location would have been difficult if the light levels were to change during a shoot due to changes in weather. This could result in over or underexposure of the film.
Some early films in color were achieved by hand-painting each individual frame, shown here in A Trip to the Moon. 200 people helped produce 60 colored prints of the film by hand-painting each frame. By the 1970s, digital colorization had been invented, making it easier to produce films in color. Most early films didn't have much shot variation, as the set could be moved and changed without having to move the camera.
Shot reverse shot editing is used here in Natural Born Killers, where Mickey Knox is being interviewed by journalist Wayne Gale. This technique is often used for conversations in films and television. The 180-degree rule is followed to show the characters are talking face to face. If the rule is broken, then the characters will appear to be facing the same direction.
Here in Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds, the scene at the petrol station where the birds orchestrate the spill of the fuel and subsequent fire is a good example of editing rhythm. The pace at which the shots are cut within the film speed as the drama unfolds to increase the sense of panic felt by the characters.
In the film Rope, Hitchcock hides where the footage has been cut to give the illusion of one continuous shot. As the camera pans into the man's back, the scene blacks out, but this is hard to see as the man's back fills the screen. The next shot begins in the exact same place as the end of the previous shot, so the audience are fooled into thinking the whole scene is one take. This technique is repeated throughout this scene.
In this clip, the music is bold and intimidating, representing Django, but as Django begins to whip another character, the music quickens and intensifies. This film was filmed on 35mm film, which would have been cut by using a splicing machine. Much older films were cut manually and cut and stuck back together using splicing tape, which was very time-consuming work.
A point-of-view shot is used here in Reservoir Dogs to show the feeling of intimidation felt by the police officer in the boot of the car looking up at Mr. Pink, Mr. White and Mr. Blonde. A point-of-view shot is designed to put you in the shoes of the character so the experience of watching the film becomes more personal.
A cutaway shot is a shot that cuts away from the subject or the scene, which contributes to the narrative and meaning. Here in Diversion, it has been edited to cut from Triss's face to the fight on the floor and back again to show the fear.
In Silence of the Lambs, parallel editing is used to show two things happening at the same time in different scenes. It cuts from the police surrounding what is thought to be Buffalo Bill's house to Buffalo Bill in his basement with his next victim. This editing technique creates suspense for the audience as the drama builds, of which the characters in the film are unaware.
In Seven Psychopaths, Hans is speaking into his recorder. It cuts to and from the scene with the Vietnamese priest in it. This is called cross-cutting. Cross-cutting is when you cut from different times which aids the narrative, as demonstrated here when Hans is relaying a story that happened in the past about the Vietnamese priest into his voice recorder.
Here in Breathless, jump cuts are used to show a passing of time. A jump cut is where the film is cut in two or more similar shots. The shots are only subtly different. The main subject of the shot is virtually the same, but the slight change in the background shows that some time has passed.
A montage is a series of short shots arranged into a sequence. This technique allows the filmmaker to compress a lot of narrative into a shorter space of time, as shown here in The Godfather, where Connie's baby is being christened. The scenes of the christening are interrupted by shots of the assassins preparing their weapons, but the priest's blessing is still carried over the changing shots, showing that the different scenes are related.
A voiceover is used near the end of Shawshank Redemption after Andy has escaped from prison. The voice of Red narrates his thoughts about what is being shown visually. Ambience is crucial to create a realistic atmosphere, as demonstrated when Red pauses and you can hear lots of people talking in the canteen.
In Kill Bill, Ellie Driver walks into a hospital down a corridor and into a room off screen. At the beginning of the scene, as Ellie walks into the hospital, the characters and audience can hear whistling, which is external diegetic sound. As she walks down the corridor, you can see that Ellie is whistling. This has now become diegetic sound because the source is visible on the screen, but as she enters the room and leaves the shot, the source of the whistling is no longer visible to the audience. The volume of the whistle remains unchanged and is accompanied by the music. This has now become non-diegetic sound, as the characters within the film can no longer hear it, but the audience can.
Sound effects are used here in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, where Harry and Dumbledore apparate from the London Underground to visit Horace Slughorn. The high-pitched noise is painful to listen to for the audience, which represents the pain Harry is going through as they apparate.